Hello everyone. My name is Leslie Shayer, and I am co-chair of the Recognition Committee. I'm grateful that you're here to watch our informative video. I have been part of the Recognition Committee since 2022 when ISOTL was in Kelowna, and I'm grateful to be here with you. I'd like to introduce to you Pat, who is also a co-chair at this point in time, or outgoing. So Pat, would you say something about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Pat Mayer. I'm a professor at Nipissing University, but as Leslie has said, I'm the outgoing board co-chair for the Recognition Committee. And as a board member, we're each tasked with co-chairing a working committee. And so for me, that's been the Recognition Committee for about 3 years, and before that, advocacy and partially convenings. And so I've done a variety of committee work over the years.
Wonderful. Well, after your 3 years with Recognition, Pat, um, I encounter a lot of people at ISOTL conferences, and they're never really sure what the Recognition Committee does. So recognition is a broad term. What does the Recognition Committee actually do?
Well, to me, the Recognition Committee celebrates membership. So it celebrates the achievements of members and whether that's a poster award or whatnot, but it also celebrates um, members stepping up to take leadership roles. And so the Recognition Committee also deals with things like elections and supporting emerging scholars as they move forward in their career. So it's kind of that double mandate of supporting and celebrating leadership, but also celebrating membership as well.
Can you remind us of possible possibilities for contributions as a prospective member of the Recognition Committee?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different ways that you could be involved in the recognition committee. Sitting as a member at large is obviously the opening that is there right now. But also on the recognition committee, we've got student membership, we've got inclusion committee membership, we've got board members, we've got members at large, as I already said, and then. At the moment, the recognition committee probably has three distinct items that it deals with. And number one, that's the overall board elections. So the recognition committee is in charge of seeking nominees, ensuring that nominees are eligible, then putting it to the board and putting it to the membership for an actual vote. So we do sort of all the behind the scenes work on elections. And then the recognition committee is also tasked with the Emerging Scholar Fund. So that's the funding that's available through ISOTL to support younger or early career members of our community attend the conference, the annual conference. So we put out the call for that, adjudicate those applications, and write the wonderful letters that say, congratulations, we can support you with this much money. And then finally, we work on the awards that happen at the conference. And so those are the student presentation and poster awards, where we celebrate the membership in person at the conference. And so those three tasks are mainly what a member of this committee would work on. And they're really nicely spread out across the year. I mean, the elections sort of happen April through July. The Emerging Scholars Funds happened July through September, October, and then the awards that happen at the conference in November. So there's a really nice balance across the year. And earlier on, I said, the current things that we work on. I mean, the recognition committee is tasked with that leadership development and celebration component. Those are the three items that we've sort of had on our books for many, 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 many years. But the recognition committee really could work on 15 other areas if they chose to without dropping those three. If it's the will of the committee or the will of the board, or there's just a brand new great idea that comes up, then really, as long as it's within the purview of the vision of the recognition committee and not part of some other committee, then really there's freedom to work on more.
Thank you, Pat. And that's good. That's good to be aware of. And I appreciate you specifying the three things that the recognition committee is responsible for or really does support. And it really is sort of an intermingling of support and of leadership. But like you said, it's celebrating. I always found it sort of like a celebrating of community. We have that opportunity to celebrate as the ISOTL community and celebrate all these SOTL successes. And sometimes we're so busy doing a lot of things in our lives that we forget to stop, pause, and celebrate. And we have that opportunity as part of the recognition committee to celebrate communally and to really applaud for the successes of others and realize that as a society as we are, that one person's success is the success of us all because it's all about furthering SOTL ideas. So it's nice
Exactly.
to know those
That's
three
perfect
threads.
summary.
But it's nice to know that there are those three, that they're not all overlapping. But it's nice. I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned that there's possibility for others. Just because we have these three, it's not limiting to say elections, emerging scholars, and conference awards. That if someone doesn't have an idea to continue to promote membership leadership or celebration and community building through the recognition committee, if they had these ideas, that as a committee, there are things that could be discussed.
Yeah.
So there are lots of possibilities. So thank you for sharing that. You mentioned that there are positions available as members of. There are two positions for member at large. Um, what what are the expectations for a member of large at large? What do they do?
Well, I think the member at large is the perfect sort of gateway into the recognition committee because by and large, the expectations are simply to be present, to be interested, to be engaged, right? So if there's material that goes out before a meeting that they've read that they make their best attempt to attend meetings as much as possible and recognizing that we're all over the world. Sometimes time zones just don't work. But as co-chairs, I think we try to balance that so that it's not the same people missing the meeting every single time. So there's some sort of rotation to allow for, potential members in Africa or in Asia, as well as North America and Europe and Australia to just sort of attend as much as they can. And some of us are more comfortable with a 11 p.m. meeting than others, and some of us are more comfortable with a 4 a.m. meeting than others. So it's really just about providing some rotation. And where I say member at large is really the gateway. Getting involved in these committees is often a start, right? You get involved in this committee, you realize that, this is actually quite fun work. And when somebody says, hey, we need a co-chair of this committee, then maybe you put your hand up. Or when you, as a recognition committee member, see the board nominations go out, you're like, you know what? I could probably do a bit more for the society. So in many ways, the member at large, simply member at large, allows you to see how things work, maybe sit in the background, but still contribute at your own pace. And then as you get more comfortable, maybe you become more vocal or you step into I say more demanding, but they're not tremendously more demanding role. And maybe you decide, committee work is great, but I'd like to run for the board or I'd like to be the president elect. So really at this stage, for a member at large, it's simply attending and being present and being involved.
Does the recognition committee meet in person at the conference or is it always online meetings? You were just mentioning that we try to rotate. Are
Yeah.
there ever in-person meetings at conferences?
There have been in-person meetings at the conferences, but again, looking to provide some level of equity, we recognize not everybody can make it to an in-person conference. So maybe we have a hybrid meeting at the conference, or maybe we just have a meeting about a specific piece of our work, because obviously, if we're looking at student presentations and student poster awards, that sort of happens in person. So maybe part of the committee who's there at the conference meets prior to adjudicating that, but maybe not as well. I mean, I think we're pretty flexible in terms of what's online, what's hybrid, what's in person, recognizing that in person is lovely. We all like getting together in person, but it does potentially exclude some folks, which is where we try to be hybrid. But typically, our meetings are simply Zoom calls, and you know that happens by and large across the entire year. There are times when we take breaks, but there are also times when um, maybe we have a meeting scheduled, but there's just nothing to discuss. And so, we might cancel it and say, we can push everything to next meeting as needed.
Well, that's good to know because if someone can't attend a conference, then they could still be a member of the recognition committee, so that it's not a requirement to be attending in person at the conference. So that
Absolutely, yes. We we
I
we
I
definitely
think
value
that's
those
yeah,
virtually who attend.
that's fantastic. And when you're talking about it's not necessarily demanding, and you're encouraging the attendance during online meetings, what kind of time commitments do you think a member at large or any committee member could face?
I mean, I would say the time commitment might be 1 to 3 hours a month, maybe. So it's not a ton. It might be an hour's meeting, some prep work beforehand, some follow-up afterwards, sending a couple emails, reading some minutes from one meeting to the next. I think the co-chair role probably has maybe 5 to 10 hours a month. And I feel like that's because there are a lot of instances where the co-chairs need to get everything set up for the meeting, doodle polls, Zoom links, et cetera, et cetera. They need to take the minutes and then circulate that around. So there's a bit more work there as a co-chair. And then the co-chairs are typically the connections to the board. And so if the board asks for this information after the fact, or this a paragraph on this for some other part of the website, or the co-chairs kind of get sucked into a number of other discussions. But for the member at large, it's about, 1 to 3 hours a month.
So 1 to 3 hours a month, Pat, that's pretty reasonable. And you could be putting that onto your annual report for your institution to sort of talk about different service activities or committee involvement. So that's not too demanding, but as you mentioned, also allowing you the opportunity to get your foot into the door with
Yeah.
various ISOTL committees or positions. So that's good to know. Um, when you talk about recognition and celebrating, do you have to be an extrovert to be part of the recognition committee?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think there are roles within the recognition committee and within all of the ISOTL infrastructure where sometimes folks are in the limelight, but other times, you don't have to be. If that's not your personality, that's fantastic. I mean, I think the most limelight that comes from the recognition committee is potentially, getting up to, at the in-person conference and saying, congratulations to so and so. Here's the emerging scholars for this year, or here's the poster award winner, or things like that. So that typically falls to one of the co-chairs, but it doesn't have to, right? So, I mean, really, it can fall to whoever from the recognition committee is physically at the conference is likely going to be more in the limelight, getting up to award some certificates. But the sort of the day-to-day recognition committee work, the day-to-day recognition committee member is largely, behind the scenes, right? Is sort of pulling all the strings, making sure the society continues to work as a volunteer, and really doing whatever they feel comfortable with. If that's in the limelight, or if that's 100% in the limelight, or 100% behind the scenes, or some mix in between, it's all valuable.
And that's really important to know, Pat. So thank you for sharing that because some people may feel more comfortable whether they are shouting from the bleachers to celebrate, whereas others might prefer to calculate the statistics in the back or tally the election results. And so it's nice to know that there's choice, and there's a role for everyone depending on their level of comfort.
And I think there's also an ability to grow there, right? Like maybe at the start you're more behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden, 5 years later, you decide I'm going to become the president-elect, or I'm gonna run for that. So I think it's not one or the other. It can be a spectrum between the two that's juggled however someone feels comfortable.
And again, I also appreciate that you say that because I mentioned at the beginning, I started in 2022, and it's through the recognition committee that I've seen a lot more what happens behind the scenes, not only with the recognition committee, but with all committees, and then also with elections and the responsibilities of different roles. So again, as a member at large, there's that foot in the door to a committee experience through ISOTL, but then the possibilities from there on in become quite endless, and I think it's really empowering. um, if I wanted to be a member at large, do I have to participate in all those threads that you mentioned earlier, the aspects of elections, emerging scholars, and student awards? What if I'm busy at one time of the year and I can't do all three? um, can I pick and choose? What are the expectations with respect to those three main priorities?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can always pick and choose. We're pretty flexible on the recognitions committee, or we have been, and I imagine we will be in the future. Generally, on the recognitions committee, you would receive all the information about all of them. But if you're just like, at this particular time, I'm on vacation, so don't wait for me, go ahead as is. That's why we have, a larger recognition committee, sort of 8 to 10 people, because there's always going to be some folks that can't come to a meeting, are on holiday during some part of the cycle of the year, etc. But also, if you just have more interest in one thing over another, if you're just like, I really want to support the students and those awards, like give me all the tasks related to the awards. I'm happy to take it. And also, I think there's some almost self-selection in terms of participation because by and large, when we're working on the emerging scholars funding, we want to give that money to every single applicant, right? And so sometimes there's not even really an adjudication process. There's no need for the general membership of the recognition committee to be involved because we take in those applications. The co-chairs see, okay, we had enough money to support 20. There's only 16 applications. They all seem eligible. Ta-da, we're done, right? So in some ways, some of the parts of the yearly cycle can be much shorter. And now we have had years where we can support 20, but we got 25 applications. Now we have to engage the committee to have a conversation. And then similarly, with the student awards, right? You might be involved in making the form all perfect, making sure it goes out on time, making sure folks are aware of it, but then you're not going to be in person at the conference. So there's an automatic sort of like you have one role, but not necessarily the other role because that part of it does require that someone's in person looking at those posters and listening to those presentations and things like that. I think the elections again are pretty sort of self-revolving. They take care of themselves. So as a general member at large for the committee, it's just about disseminating the call and making sure it gets out there to all the different places it might need to get to. If we're looking for a regional VP in a particular region, then getting it on the right listservs and getting it out to some potential nominees, that's all it entails. But again, with the elections, if you've become a member at large on this committee and then all of a sudden you decide I want to do more, then you have no role in the elections if you're in the elections. So if you decide to put your hand up and go further, then we sort of cut you out of those conversations for obvious conflict of interest reasons.
Well, and that's a really good idea. One thing that I would admit, that as you were just speaking, as a co-chair in the past year, I've had the opportunity to look more at those who are interested in becoming, or pardon me, who want to be part of the elections. And I find that I have more time to read in that space and time versus when someone's just going to vote, because unless you already know, or you might be more in a rush, we have more time to hear. And it's the same with the emerging scholars, is that when we get to read why students are applying and their interests, and it's so nice to see these subtle concepts in their infancy for a lot of individuals, and and you can just see all the potential, and it's so exciting. So that even as a member at large, if you don't have the time to participate in all the aspects, if you can dig into one, there's a lot of joy and a lot of newfound knowledge about individuals, about SOTL, about community. I think it's I would really encourage anyone to do that. But I appreciate, Pat, that you mentioned that you can kind of glom on to what is of most interest to you or what you have most time for. And of course, always avoid the conflict of interest. So if you've applied to be an emerging scholar this year or the next year, perhaps you won't be part of that. Some of those discussions as well. How often does the committee meet, Pat?
I mean, I would say that we strive to meet sort of monthly, but recognize that we probably don't meet in December and January. We might not meet in July or August. There's just some months where a large portion of the world or our committee is on vacation, and we try to avoid those. We can't always, but that's okay. So maybe 8 out of the 12 months of the year we try to meet monthly. Do we always meet that regularly? No, we probably try to schedule that many meetings, but of course, if we're sort of like, oh, you know what, there's not actually any adjudication that we need to do for the emerging scholars, we can skip that meeting. We're going to support all 19, etc. Or if we get to the election cycle and AOR and Aaron are taking in the information and everybody looks eligible, then we might not need a meeting as the election cycle rolls through. So I would say eight meetings a year on Zoom for an hour. So that would be one of those hours out of the three a month kind of thing. But to be honest, maybe two or more of those could get canceled if it's simply there's no new information, no updates, the cycle is rolling, here we are. So we do love to give we take people's time and then we love to give it back to them as we can.
That's wonderful. Uh, Pat, thank you for all this information. Is there anything else that you feel we haven't discussed already today about the recognition committee?
No, I feel like the recognition committee is, as I've laid it out, and I imagine it will continue in that capacity. And it's really just a nice committee to be on. It's a great group of scholars, a great group of people, and you really do, as you've said, Leslie, you get some joy out of, working with good people and reading good, exciting things, whether they're election nominations or emerging scholar fund applications. It brings joy to your heart when you just read about the great work that folks are doing. And, at some level, you wish everybody could get elected and everybody could get supported and everybody could win an award. But it's great to be in the room when really the top level folks are getting that recognition. And even saying that, I mean, I think there are folks that maybe didn't get funded or elected their first go round and tried again. And it's really heartwarming to see that when, as a recognition committee, you see somebody who sort of didn't get the appointment that they wanted last time, but they keep coming back.
So, in other words, keep coming back, everyone. Whether it's emerging scholars or for elections, we want to keep seeing your name and we want to see your successes. We, as recognition
Absolutely.
committee, want to recognize your successes. So we're here for you. Don't we are looking forward to meeting some of you prospectively in the future. We thank you for watching our video today. And if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email has been shared in the call relating to recognition committee members at large or our call at this time. But otherwise, I'm sure you can find me, and I look forward to hearing from you. So take care, everyone, and thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay,
All right.
was that
There we go.
reasonable? Were
Yeah.
you
Sounds
happy? Was that okay?
I think so. I think it was great. I mean, the questions naturally flowed, and it was good for me to see them on the side here because then I could like stop myself from answering one if I knew it was coming later. So that was good. Um, let's
I
see.
was expecting you to say more in number one, but then you did it in two. So
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
flow
yeah.
from one to two was not quite as smooth because you were done faster than I expected, but that's okay. But no, I think that's great. And I'm hoping because my email was in the call, that's okay, because I didn't think of a way to try to share it here. So hopefully that'll
Yeah.
be reasonable.
Well,
But
and I think what we could do, I don't know if other committees are doing this kind of recording, but when Erin pulls it together, like if she wants to put the questions, on a slide at the beginning, or it
yeah,
transcribes or has the closed captioning at the bottom, or anything like that. Like
yeah,
I'm happy with everything I've said, and I'm even happy with the like the natural flow of it. So I feel like pretty much from when we started our introductions to when we stopped with the pause there, that can almost
yeah,
just be by itself shared. And it's probably, I don't know, 15 minutes
yeah. I'd say
total.
maybe 20, but yeah,
Yeah, maybe
maybe 20.
20.
But no,
And then if they
but
want to put a front slide on it and make these all consistent, like whatever they choose to do.
absolutely. I did think about making slides for all the questions, and but then I was concerned because again, it's nice to just see our faces versus the
Yeah.
slides, because part of recognition committee is about seeing the faces, and again
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
that community aspect, so it's not just having the sort of the formal slide, but if yes, absolutely, if so that's why I didn't do it, but no, I think that's
Yeah,
great.
if they
I
can
think
do something post-production
no
and make
matter,
it so it's smooth, then awesome.
absolutely, and uniform with the other
Yeah.
recordings, I think that would be great. Well, that's awesome. Thank you,
Awesome.
Pat, for your time.
Yeah, I think
That
we're
was
done. If there's a like obviously we can say, hey Aaron, we're done. There's about a 15 or 20-minute block in the middle of this recording. Take a look, tidy it up as you like. Like just send me a final version. I'm happy with it, I'm sure. So
Oh, that's perfect. And that's why I tried to say right before we started, okay, now we're starting. And then that's why I
yeah,
tried to
yeah,
do the
yeah.
waving to say, okay, now we're done. So that it is
Yeah.
more, because people are busy and they may not be paying attention. So that's why the delineation was kind of required. But no, I think it's great. Thank you for your time and your feedback, because I know you're, as outgoing co-chair, you're really not, this is
I'm
not
not there
your
anymore, but
task
but I
anymore.
kind of am.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's appreciated. Thank you, Pat. And I hope that all is well on your end and you're going to enjoy the last couple of weeks before classes are back in.
Exactly. I've got too much to get done before then. So,
Of course. That sounds
all
about right for
right.
you.
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay,
yourself,
take care.
all is well? You're still figuring out
Oh,
life and jobs
all
and
is absolute. Well, we're just the Okanagan's on fire, so
yes.
it's been pretty nasty. So just trying to avoid evacuation orders and not breathe too much toxic air. That's pretty much
Yeah,
the highest
yeah.
on the agenda right now. But
Awesome.
but yes, everything
Awesome.
else is, life is good.
Okay. Awesome.
Take care.
Well, we'll see you later. Bye.
Thanks for your time. Bye.